The Newport Mercury, 1773. To the free men of Pennsylvania, my countrymen and fellow citizens, the day is at length arrived in which we must determine to live as free men or as slaves, to linger out a miserable existence. The tea ship will in all probability be in a few hours at anchor in our harbor, and unless we exert ourselves against the introduction of her cargo, it will be landed. And if landed, it will be made use of as a precedent of right to enslave our country to all eternity. So much has been already published on the tea scheme, and so clearly have all its mischievous effects been pointed out, that no virtuous American can remain doubtful of its diabolical tendency, and of course cannot be ignorant of the duty he owes to his country at this very important crisis. Boston, December 13th. Since our last, arrived here Captain Coffin, not only with the plague, tea, on board, but also with the smallpox. As tea is of a drawing quality, 'tis suspected it has sucked in the distemper, and therefore, if permitted to be landed, 'tis presumed there would be no purchaser. The East India Company tea commissioners still remain immured at Castle William. Their obstinacy has rendered them infinitely more obnoxious to their countrymen than even the stamp masters were. Their zeal in the cause against the liberties of America must be allowed to be indeed singular, for which their names will be transmitted to posterity with tenfold infamy. If Mr. Roach, the owner of Captain Hall's ship, does not intend she shall depart directly with the tea she brought, he ought explicitly to declare it, that the people may know what to depend upon, and how to conduct themselves. It does not appear that she is yet in readiness, or that he has even made a demand at the custom house for a clearance. The minds of the public are greatly irritated at his delay hitherto to take this necessary step towards complying with their peremptory requisition. Boston, January 3rd, 1774. The express that went from hence the Friday afternoon after the destruction of the tea arrived at New York the Tuesday evening following, and returned back last Monday, performing his journey in a shorter time than could be expected at this season of the year. We learn that when the inhabitants of that city received the intelligence, they were in high spirits, and vast numbers of people collected, one and all declaring that the ship with the tea on board designed for that port should, on her arrival, be sent back, or the tea destroyed. That they highly extolled the Bostonians for what the Indians had done here, and immediately forwarded the account to Philadelphia. An act to discontinue, in such manner, for such time, as is therein mentioned, the landing and discharging, lading or shipping, of goods, wares, and merchandise at the town and within the harbor of Boston, in the province of Massachusetts Bay, in North America. Whereas dangerous commotions and insurrections have been fomented and raised in the town of Boston, in the province of Massachusetts Bay, in New England, by divers ill-affected persons, to the subversion of His Majesty's government, and to the utter destruction of the public peace and good order of the said town, in which commotions and insurrections, certain valuable cargoes of teas, being the property of the East India Company, and on board certain vessels lying within the bay or harbor of Boston, were seized and destroyed. And whereas, in the present condition of the said town and harbor, the commerce of His Majesty's subjects cannot be safely carried on there, nor the customs payable to His Majesty duly collected, and it is therefore expedient that the officers of His Majesty's customs should be forthwith removed from the said town. May it please your Majesty that it may be enacted, and be it enacted by the King's most excellent majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the Lords spiritual and temporal, and commons, in this present Parliament assembled, and by the authority of the same, that from and after the 1st day of June, 1774, it shall not be lawful for any person or persons whatsoever to lade or put, or cause or procure to be laden or put off or from any quay, wharf, or other place within the said town of Boston, or in or upon any shore of the bay commonly called the harbor of Boston, or in or upon any island, creek, landing place, bank, or other place within the said bay or headlands, into any ship, vessel, lighter, boat, or bottom, any goods, wares, or merchandise whatsoever, to be transported or carried into any other country, province, or place whatsoever, or into any other part of the said province of Massachusetts Bay in New England.